Entire world's about to forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
Everyone? Can't some people still know?
Welcome to ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy. Let me go ahead and throw out a huge spoiler warning for Spider-Man No Way Home. So in No Way Home, Peter and Strange attempt to cast a spell that would make everyone forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And as we all know, that spell is botched as Peter, one by one, adds exceptions so that those closest to him will still know his secret.
Nah, but my Aunt May should really know.
Could you just stop talking?
The spell tampering leads to the chaos that ensues throughout the film, bringing in characters from other universes that know Peter Parker is Spider-Man. At the end of the movie, Peter is faced with two options: all of reality breaking and an infinite number of villains showing up in the MCU, or allowing Strange to cast a spell where everyone will not only forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, but where they will forget who Peter Parker is, period. No one, absolutely no one, not a single person will have the slightest clue as to who Peter Parker is. Kind of like me when I go to a sporting event. This spell will have many ramifications, and while it saves the MCU from madness, for now, there are also a lot of negative repercussions for Peter Parker. Strange is hesitant to even cast the spell because of how awful it will be for Peter's life. But in typical Peter Parker / Spider-Man fashion, Peter is prepared to sacrifice his own well-being for the greater good. It is the constant struggle of Peter Parker and Spider-Man. This is Peter's ultimate test, and he passes, because now he understands that with great power comes great responsibility, and with great responsibility comes great sacrifice. And just like that, the spell is cast, the day is saved, and Peter Parker is forgotten. Now, the question we all have is, how does this frickin' spell work? Does the spell only remove the memory of Peter Parker's existence from everyone's memory? Or does it physically remove Peter Parker from pictures, videos, documents, etc.? Now, the first theory is that Peter has only been removed from memories, but physical objects still remain in existence. So, birth certificates, yearbook photos, Daily Bugle hit pieces, Flash Thompson's book that is literally about Peter Parker being Spider-Man, all of that still exists. But the spell makes all beings ignore the existence of those things. But, I mean, this theory has some holes in it. Are we really supposed to believe that all the selfies and text messages that Ned and MJ likely have on their phones with Peter Parker are just ignored and they never question these things? And what would happen if Peter did decide to confront them with the pictures and videos of all of them together? What would their reactions be? Will they just be overcome with this feeling that they're not supposed to be looking at this? What about all the Daily Bugle videos about Peter Parker and Spider-Man that are still up on J. Jonah Jameson's channel? Do those videos still exist but just are ignored by everyone? I mean, let's be honest. If this is how the spell works, then it gets complicated real quick.
Say, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
What's that certificate?
This? Oh, it just certifies that I own 1 square foot of land in Scotland, which, according to Scottish custom, allows me to have the title of Lord or Lady.
You got it, Lord person.
Thank you. I acquired this land through established titles, the sponsor of this video. My land is on a private nature reserve in Ardeleigh, Aberdeenshire, and helps preserve the woodlands of Scotland. That's the cool thing about this certification. It isn't just a novelty gift. It helps to protect the woodlands of Scotland. With every order, they plant trees all over the world through their charity partners, One Tree Planted and Trees for the Future. You get this certificate, an official crest, and a unique plot number so you can see the exact location of your land. Then you will be allowed to officially change your name to Lord or Lady, and you can have this on your credit cards or plane tickets. It also makes for a terrific last-minute gift. I mean, just look at some of these reactions.
Lord Kenneth Delane Albert.
All right, hey, look at that. You will be calling me Lord! Lord Joel Green. Yes!
So, if you're interested in classing up your title and helping the environment, click the link in the description and enter our discount code for a 10% discount. Now is the perfect time because they're having a big holiday sale, up to 80% off. And this discount code gets you an additional 10% off. So, back to Spider-Man. There is some precedence for this in the Marvel comic book called The Sentry by Paul Jenkins and Jay Lee. The book is about a hero called the Sentry who is one of the greatest heroes in the Marvel universe. But today, no one remembers him, even though he was best friends with all the biggest heroes and saved the world countless times. Peter Parker even won a Pulitzer by taking a picture of the Sentry. But, long story short, the Sentry had to work with Reed Richards and Doctor Strange to erase himself from everyone's memories for the good of the world. Afterwards, if someone sees a reminder of him, they just think, I'm not supposed to see that, and they go on about their day. Even Peter Parker doesn't remember winning a Pulitzer Prize. It's as if those parts of everyone's lives have just become sort of dim. Now, that is all well and good, but like I said, it's a little complicated. I think the second theory is a little more plausible, that any and all mentions of Peter Parker longer in any documents, any pictures or videos. Everything is removed from existence, showing no trace whatsoever that Peter Parker ever existed. But this introduces a slew of other problems, such as Peter's birth certificate, social security card, ID, and so on. At the end of the movie, he's studying for his GED test. How does he even register for a GED test if he doesn't have a birth certificate or proof of identity? Then again, I guess this is the Marvel Universe. He probably could find some shady people who could do that sort of thing for him, but now he doesn't have those connections as Peter Parker anymore. Does this also mean that all the newspapers discussing Peter Parker as Spider-Man and his friends accomplices, MJ and Ned, do those just disappear? Are they replaced with new newspapers that only cover Spider-Man and Mysterio, minus the fact that he's Peter Parker? Does Flash's book disappear? Or are the contents of it completely changed? Basically, is the space-time continuum being rewritten like in Back to the Future? Or
Back to the Future is a bunch of bullshit.
now, we know that Doctor Strange is capable of willing physical matter into and out of existence. We've seen him create a mug of beer for Thor and then make it go away. We've seen him clear a street full of people in Infinity War. And in WandaVision, we see Wanda use her magic to manipulate matter, to create something out of nothing, as well as wield matter in and out of existence. She even creates life in her two sons in a reborn Vision. Now, it has yet to be seen if Wanda tapped into the multiverse in order to create her new family. And by that, I mean that maybe her children genuinely exist in another universe, and the versions we see of them in WandaVision were created by Wanda, drawing from other realities in the multiverse. Anyway, if you notice in Spider-Man No Way Home, we see the same types of runes in the sky surrounding Strange that we saw Wanda cast in the finale of WandaVision. So I think it's safe to say that Strange might be using chaos magic in No Way Home.
This is chaos magic, Wanda.
And like Kevin Feige said, WandaVision, No Way Home, and Multiverse of Madness are all part of a story arc, lending even more credence to the idea that this magic is the same. I'm hopeful that in the upcoming MCU projects, maybe even in Multiverse of Madness, we'll get some answers as to how exactly this spell worked. We need answers. It's also worth mentioning that there is still evidence of Peter Parker's existence in the MCU, such as MJ still having the Black Dahlia necklace that Peter gave her in Far From Home. MJ probably knows that she got this necklace when she was in Europe, but I wonder if she simply doesn't remember where she got it, and the spell prevents her from even thinking about it. Or maybe the spell created new memories that never actually happened in order to fill in the gaps left by the removal of Peter Parker from everyone's memory. For instance, Happy Hogan knows Spider-Man and says Spider-Man is how he knew May, but he doesn't remember Peter Parker. So, does the spell prevent his mind from not questioning this, or from thinking about the specifics of recent events in his life? Or does the spell create fake memories to fill in those gaps? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but in order for the final spell to work, wouldn't it also have had to have made all those characters in the purple sky forget Peter Parker as well? Isn't that the whole point, that they forgot who Peter Parker is, thus making it to where the previous spell no longer attracts anyone because no one throughout the multiverse knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man? So wouldn't that mean that Toby and Andrew and all the Peter Parkers throughout the multiverse are about to be met with no one knowing who they are? I think maybe that's something you run by Toby and Andrew's Spider-Man before doing it, right? I mean, it's obvious that the spell made MJ and Ned forget about Toby and Andrew's Peter Parker too. So I would like to know if the spell only makes people in the MCU forget Peter Parker and his variants, or does it make everyone throughout the multiverse forget Peter Parker, period? Well, and I mean all the Peter Parkers who are Spider-Man, not just like a random guy named Peter Parker.
Michael Bolton?
That's me.
So are you related to that singer guy?
No, it's just a coincidence.
So essentially we're asking if the spell works by either Option 1, making everyone throughout the multiverse forget all Peter Parker, period. Or Option 2, makes only residents of the main MCU forget Peter Parker and any variants of him that they might have met, and that somehow voids the prior spell that's pulling in all these multiversal characters. Or Option 3, is it only Tom Holland's specific Peter Parker that is being forgotten, since it's him that's apparently drawing everyone from the multiverse there, everyone forgetting this specific Peter makes them all go home. If Option 3 is the answer, then wouldn't that mean that Strange, Ned, and MJ would still remember Andrew and Toby's Peter Parkers? Hell, maybe it's a mix of all three, but I think it's fair to say that after this ending, Marvel and Sony really got to clear this up. So let's touch on whether or not the Forget Peter Parker spell will ever be undone. The ending of No Way Home was the most Peter Parker ending you could ever ask for. He always makes the sacrifice for what's best, even if it hurts him. Now that being said, his friendship with Ned, his relationship with MJ, these are amazing connections, and I hate to see them go away forever. I'm hopeful that maybe a few films from now, we will see Peter reconnect with his old friend Ned and his true love MJ. It won't be through Peter Parker Parker selfishly bringing them back into his life by trying to remind them of who he is. And it won't be him introducing himself to start over fresh and befriend them again, and then help MJ fall in love with them all over again, because that would just spit in the face of what they've done in No Way Home. But I do think they could find out via another spell, a multiversal tear, something that will happen in the future films that will result in MJ and Ned remembering Peter Parker and then seeking him out. Maybe they even ask, "What the hell? I thought you were going to come find us." And then Peter goes on to explain how he thought they were better off without him, and all is forgiven. And of course, I think the real world reason we're even dealing with this situation is because it's going to make it easier for Marvel and Sony to explain why, in upcoming Spider-Man movies, other MCU characters aren't showing up, or why Peter Parker doesn't have Stark Tech, why any other MCU characters won't be wondering where Peter is if he hops over to Venom's universe for a little while, etc. Kevin Feige did say that Spider-Man is the only superhero with the unique superpower to jump between universes, of course meaning that we'll see him some way or another traveling back and forth between Venom's universe and the MCU. But let us know your thoughts and theories down in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.